IQ. What did you think about his success and some of the things he managed to be able to do?
Honestly, I mean, because as I said, I self-published also because my subject, nobody would touch it. Nobody in England, nobody in France, nobody in Germany, nobody in America. So I self-published, but I have absolutely no idea how to go forward. So
Yeah.
that's it.
IQ, are you still coming over to the United States?
Definitely, my green card is nearly finished. I just need to have an interview with the consulate.
Hmm. Well, good for you. Look forward to meeting you.
God willing, I shall, and by that time, we have a repeat performance of Donald Trump for 4 more years.
Hmm. Well, if you saw that his speech two nights ago, if he would stick to that speech for the rest of the
Yep.
campaign, he has a chance of winning. I personally have bet that he will win, but really going to be a down to the wire thing. But you know what's really interesting? The number of people who have voted before the election. The numbers are phenomenal. And the interesting thing, Josh Bernstein, when he comes on, says that us older people have got to get out there and vote because a lot of people died to give us that right.
Yep.
But a lot of them, if the numbers that I'm seeing are correct, a lot of older people are voting ahead of the election for fear of violence. So that's
Yes.
something.
I definitely think that is you've hit that on the head, Don. You have definitely hit that on the head. And I believe we have our next guest joining us here on the big program. And he has written numerous articles for industry publications. He has appeared on CBS Evening News. He's been quoted regularly by Dow Jones, the Boston Globe, BioWorld Today, the LA Times, London Independent. And for more information, you can go over to glorikan.com. And he also has got a podcast as well. And we've got Harry joining us today here on our broadcast. How are you, sir?
Very good. How are you?
Pretty good, actually. I can't see your video. Are you going to be able to do video with us as well?
Yeah, hold on.
Should be a button at the bottom there. There you are. There. We've got you. Fantastic. And you are a global business expert, and you are basically predicting that positive trends in healthcare. Tell me and Dawn, and of course IQ Al Rizzoli here, a little bit about some of the different things you're predicting.
Well, I think the silver lining of COVID, if you can identify one of those, is healthcare has a lot of technologies have been able to move forward under COVID that I think would have taken another 5 or 10 years had it not been for something like this. And the other trend has been, more data that we've been collecting through sensors and different technologies that have been, because of the electronic data systems that are out there, lets us analyze patients to identify sort of who might be getting sick, if a therapy is working, even trying to identify drug targets much faster than we would normally.
Isn't it interesting that it takes a crisis like a war to move forward so much technology?
Well, if you think about all the stuff that NASA created, right, and DoD is responsible, Department of Defense is responsible for incredible breakthroughs and changes. So things don't happen all the time by accident. You have to have some impetus that moves the ball forward.
Yes.
And just depending on competitive dynamics, sometimes is just not enough.
Yeah.
What do you, Jiggy, I'll ask, I guess,
Yeah.
what do you think that America can maintain its lead in healthcare against what the Chinese and the Russians are trying to do?
Uh, if we go back to believing in science and funding it, absolutely. The creativity of this country cannot be matched. Um, I've traveled the whole world. I don't think anybody can match our creativity. Uh, but you got to fund it, and you got to believe in the science. And those two things are critical, because otherwise you're just not going to fund the right things. I mean, I'm in venture capital, and we're always looking for breakthrough capabilities that we think can really have an opportunity to grow, but that is based on, on very, very hard science and fact that we can sort of, you know, put our money on and bet on, so that we know that it'll go forward the right way.
But if you look at the Nobel Prizes, which not it seems to me that the recognition of American scientists seems to be um, flattened, and the curve is flattened a little bit, and we're seeing other nations recipients. Is that simply what are you?
Well, Nobel Prizes are one of those things where you've seen it, depending on what somebody's working on. But like, if you look at one of the greatest inventions or prizes that was given to Jennifer Doudna from UC Berkeley for her identification of a technology called CRISPR, which can allow you to edit DNA. And so this was identified here in the United States. If you think about why we're able to fight this pandemic, we were able to sequence, in other words, see the DNA sequence of this virus in, I think it was done in 24 to 48 hours. The US was a major driver behind DNA sequencing and all the capabilities that we brought to the table. So I am bullish on our creativity and our science. Again, you always have to forward fund it, and then you see the benefits of it afterwards. You don't put $1 in and then get $1 out the next day. And actually, I'll give you a perfect example. For every dollar the US invested in DNA sequencing, we got out, I think the number that Deloitte quoted was $115 or $120 for every dollar we put in.
It's nice.
Wow.
Where do we go from here?
Yeah.
Well, I guess tell me more. What particular?
Well, you're absolutely right. But you read about some companies are seeking to go in one direction for cancer research. Some other companies are going otherwhere. But where do you think the next big breakthrough is going to occur?
Well, I think it's right now, if you look at how data is being used to do a couple things. One is, like I said, identify drugs much faster. There are companies that I'm talking to that they're pretty much, my estimate is they're taking 3 years off the front end of, identifying targets. Then you look at how do I manage patients? So if I've got all the data and I know, well, I tried A and I tried B and B works better, then that data that's available can tell me for the next patient, do B, because A didn't work as well, right? And then the other thing that's happening because of sensors and technology. So you know how the check engine light goes on in your car and tells you something's going to break before it breaks? Right?
Yes.
Well, these sensors like this Apple Watch I'm wearing or different things like that, you take a combination of these sensors, and pretty soon the check engine light will go on before something breaks. And so you're able to identify a disease before it becomes a problem, which, I think everybody would like to stay healthy. Nobody likes getting sick. And so if you tell them, you're on the road to getting sick, you might want to course correct. Not all of them will, but I think a lot of them would like to fix the problem before they end up in a hospital.
About 6 months ago on my show, I interviewed a researcher from Cornell University who had developed a toilet seat to measure cardiac activity in sick patients. I thought it was the greatest thing since sliced bread, if you think about it, because there are cardiac patients that have to measure themselves every day. And I thought, but his problem was he couldn't find funding. And I was surprised at that.
Yeah, not every idea, no matter how good, has a easy path forward. But there are some fantastic sensor technologies that are coming out now. At one point you're gonna be able to sit in your car, and your car will do some of these measurements while you're driving. So I'm very bullish. I mean, when my Apple Watch, I'm going back almost 2 years, said to me, Harry, diagnosed with sleep apnea. I said, yes, I have. And it said, are you being treated for sleep apnea? And I said, yes, I am. And I was, it said, thank you so much for contributing to our research. But basically, my Apple Watch was warning me that you need to, get checked. And so those sorts of moves that are happening, or I'll give you a really good example. So asthmatics, people that have asthma. So there's a inhaler that has a GPS chip in it. And so the inhaler connected to your phone knows where you are. So, and all of a sudden it rings and it says, it's really smoggy today. You may want to take a puff on your inhaler before you go outside. And so the patient takes a puff of the inhaler before they go outside, and they avoid going to the hospital because they have an asthma attack. So there are some fantastic things that are coming down the pike.
Do you think you and I, looking at you, we're older people, do you think the next generation will live beyond 100 years on average?
So unfortunately, life expectancy in the United States has gone down recently. I am bullish, however, that these technologies. So the beauty of all this technology shift I'm talking about is it's enabling healthy care as opposed to sick care. So before I had to wait till something went wrong, right, and then go fix it. Well, once it's broken, it's hard to fix. But if I can keep you healthy up front, and it's more profitable to keep you healthy, then you'll live a lot longer, most probably.
We've got.
I love that term.
Yes.
I turn it over to IQ.
Yeah, IQ. Do you have any questions for our guest, Harry?
I love his positive point of view. I agree with him 100%. That only the United States of America is so exceptional because every human being in the United States of America has the ability to excel. Like our previous guest, from nowhere, he wrote a book and became successful. Where does this happen? Where? In Asia? No way. In Africa? No. Latin America? No. Not even mostly in Europe. This is why the greatest inventions in the world in the 20th century, after World War II, was in the United States of America. It is exceptional. There's no question about it. And I agree about the sensors. There's absolutely no doubt that the sensors will preempt everything. And at the beginning of the talk, I think it was Don who asked, how come we create after war? Because necessity is the mother of inventions. That's the bottom line. So when you have a COVID attack, that's a necessity. It's a war. It's a total war. But America is the best to do that. And I agree with the gentleman. The positive attitude that he has, I have the same attitude. I love it. Thank you for coming.
Thank you for having me.
Can I ask you a question? There's been a lot of talk about how science can help women become greater leaders in this effort. Do you have any thoughts on that?
Well, I don't know about science helping women become greater leaders. I mean, my dad died when I was 7 years old of a heart attack, and I was raised by my mom, my sister, and my grandmother. So as far as I'm concerned, they're pretty good leaders, right out of the gate, on multiple levels.
Well, let me rephrase the question. Do you think it's going to open greater opportunities for women in the coming decade?
I honestly, I hope so. I find that in many of the companies that I've started and that I've been part of, that having a mixed group of people ends up coming up with a much better idea. You only come up, so ideas are generated by a variety of inputs. If you only read one thing, you're never going to sort of come up with that next idea. You've got to read a potpourri of items to then generate some new approach to it, right? And so if you've got, you know, females in positions of authority where they can actually like speak up and lead an effort, as well as people from other parts of the world, you know, I think you get the best ideas out of them. I mean, I think it's fantastic because everybody comes at something from a different perspective. As the other gentleman said, it's the mother of necessity. Is your experiences help you add to something greater than just yourself alone.
Well, couldn't agree with you more.
Don, that was the most sexist remark you ever made in your life. You are impugning the ability of women to achieve unlimited results. That is wrong. That's sexism. I'm sorry. I'm your friend. I'm talking to you as a friend. So don't take it as an enemy. But honestly,
I didn't mean
in general terms, women are as capable, if not even more capable under circumstances, than men. There is no difference whatsoever in the ability of a woman, except the physical one. We are stronger than they are. That's it. But mentally, Madame Curie, a woman, 2 Nobel Prizes. Who else in the history of Nobel won 2 Nobel Prizes? No man, only a woman. So I'm not being nasty. I am being, as usual, upfront. Women are as capable as men. Full stop.
I didn't imply otherwise.
Yeah, I know. But I tell you
I'm
what,
just saying it seems that the reason I attended 6 months ago a pitch session in which there were 16 teams pitching 5 minutes each, pitching to investors, and of the 16 teams there was exactly one woman on all the teams, and I pointed that out to the man who had put together this program, and he said, "Yes, we seem not to be to have opened up." And this happened to be a healthcare pitch in New York City, and he said, "We do not seem to have opened up our executive ranks in two women as much as we have, and I was merely asking the question. So uh, I'm
Yeah,
sorry if it's
that's a I don't even I don't understand that. That's a failure beyond my ability to comprehend. Um,
or mine.
yeah, I mean, I don't understand. It just makes no sense to me. But I'm, maybe I look at the world in a different way because of the way that I was raised and who I was raised by. But I don't.
Hmm.
It doesn't make any
Well,
sense to me.
I point out to you that there are only in the medical schools in the United States, there are only 7 women leading the medical schools in the United States. I don't know if you're aware of that.
Uh, no, but that seems also wrong. Um, it's just some of these situations are just bizarre to me.
Yes.
Um, and you know what? The only thing that we can do is try to make change ourselves in at every level.
Well,
Um,
I couldn't agree more. I just think that with all the changes that are going on today, that just seemed to me to be one that is just open to allowing. And I'm sorry I brought the subject this way. Let's go back to your specialty, which is much more important than what I just said.
uh, I'm happy to talk about whatever subject you like, Paul, from a critical
Jiggy,
Okay, I'll ask you
help me out
about
over here. Take me out of this mess.
what do you think of Donald Trump and the coronavirus? By the way, personally, I support him to the nth degree. So I'm putting up front what I feel about him. So, but what do you think about his appraisal and his behavior regarding the coronavirus? Honest opinion, as usual.
Wow. So I believe that the way that we handled the dynamics of the virus did not live up to what this country could have done. We had much more, we are much more capable and have been in much worse situations and have always been able to rise to the occasion. I think we missed a number of opportunities to not be in as bad of a hole as we are currently in. Um, I think we still have the ability to pivot. Um, I think one of the greatest organizations in the world, being CDC, has been not utilized to the degree that it could be utilized. I mean, the whole world comes to our CDC, and right now, people are questioning the CDC. People are questioning the FDA, which is dangerous. You cannot have the entity that approves every drug in the United States be questioned by the people that live in the country. It's you're asking for a big problem. From a testing perspective, I think we need to rethink our testing strategy. We have the ability to test everybody. We have the ability to understand who's getting sick, and we have the ability to quarantine them. We just have to want to do that. So I think there's a lot of missteps that were taken along the way. And I think it's very simple. Like, politics should not drive science.
That's exactly what I was going to tell you. It was politicized.
Yeah.
And this is a crime. This is a crime against the American people. This is a crime against the humanity. This should be scientific. Only science should lead it.
Yes, science should drive decision making. I could not agree with you more.
Thank God we are on the same wavelength.
That's one of the best ways I've heard of the summation of the situation. You're to be congratulated.
Yeah,
Thank
but
you.
what we are talking about is matter of pure rational thinking. Science should lead it, not politics. Politicians fail on everything they do. That's why America is in, excuse me, in very bad condition that it is in because of politicians. The same thing in Europe, the same thing in China, the same thing everywhere. We elect them to help us, but when they come to power, they rape us and stab us in the back. Sorry to interrupt.
No. We have got a tremendous guest with us today, and just a tremendous topic here. We've got a global business expert with us today, and so I mentioned earlier that you've got a podcast. Talk to us a little bit about your program, my friend.
Yeah, it follows on from my last book, which the title of the book was Moneyball Medicine. So if you're all baseball fans, you have an idea that data made a big difference in how the team got put together for the Oakland A's. And so Moneyball Medicine goes to the fact of how data is going to change the practice of medicine. And the podcast is by the same name, Moneyball Medicine, where I interview people who have expertise in different fields. And the conversation is, how is data changing something? Is it helping to lower costs and end up with either a healthier patient or a drug discovered faster? But along those lines is the idea behind the podcast.
Wow. Well, I know I'm going to listen to it. You see that Billy Bean is now going to take over and apply his ideas to soccer?
I think right now almost every sport is able to utilize that data to make better decisions as they're going forward, because we're tracking everything. I mean, it's bordering on like, wow, you can sort of measure any aspect that you want. But if you don't measure it, you can never improve it, right? It's impossible. How do you run a business if you don't understand your profit and loss statement? How do you have a better show and identify more listeners if you're not measuring all that? So if you are measuring something, you can improve it. If you're not measuring it, you might as well take a wild guess.
Great.
We have got
Jiggy, I have
yes.
to go.
No. We're gonna wrap things up here with our guest. Let's start with Don, since you've got to get out of here pretty quick, my friend. Don, how do we get a hold of you online? Get your stuff, everything.
The National Robotics Education Foundation, the-nref.org. It's still, our efforts to